I moved into this old house a week ago. At 32, I thought I could finally escape the chaos of city life. I was a freelance graphic designer, looking for a quiet space to work. The creaky floors and musty basement felt like they had history, and I was eager to dive into it. I didn't believe in ghosts or any of that stuff, but this place felt different. The first night, I unpacked boxes and settled in. It was peaceful. But then I heard it. A soft thumping sound echoed through the halls. I dismissed it as old pipes or the house settling. Still, the curiosity tugged at me, and I went to investigate. As the nights passed, the thumping grew. I started hearing whispers too, muffled voices that blended with the shadows. I felt uneasy, but was strangely drawn to them. I found old pictures in a dusty chair, showcasing families that used to live here. Their faces looked just like my friends, and that made my heart race. One evening, everything shifted. I was getting ready for bed when I saw a shadow flit past the basement door. My heart dropped. I stood frozen, unable to move or call out. It felt like the house was alive. I thought about the basement. I could sense something down there, something waiting. The air was heavy, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The whispers haunted me as I tried to sleep. They felt like they were wrapping around me, pulling me closer to the dark. The next day, enough was enough. I grabbed a flashlight and approached the basement door. I felt dread as I opened it. It was colder as I descended the creaky stairs. That musty smell hit me again. Thicker this time. I shone my light around the clutter. Old boxes and furniture filled the space. Forgotten relics of lives once lived. Then I saw it. A photo album lying open on the floor. I picked it up and felt a chill course through me. The pictures inside were of those same faces from before. But there was something unsettling about their eyes. It felt like they were watching me, alive in a way I couldn't explain. As I stood in the dim light, I heard the thumping again, louder now. The whispers surrounded me, feeling closer. I turned quickly, my heart pounding. There was nothing behind me except dark spaces. I was sweating, terrified and confused. I really didn't know what to do. The house, which was supposed to be my refuge, felt more like a prison. Suddenly, I heard a soft voice say, "Stay." I turned around, and there it was, a shadow, just at the edge of my light. I froze again. Should I run? Should I talk? I wasn't sure what I awakened in this place, but it felt more alive than ever. I realized I wasn't alone. I thought I was looking for peace, but I had stumbled into something else. Now, I had to figure out what it meant. I stood there, the flashlight trembling in my hand. The shadow flickered, almost as if it were considering its next move. I forced myself to speak, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who are you?" I asked, but the words came out barely above a whisper. The figure didn't answer. It hung in the air, just out of reach, as if it were deciding how to engage with me. The temperature dropped a few more degrees, and I could see my breath fogging in front of me. Panic rose like bile in my throat. "Show me," I blurted out without thinking. The moment the words escaped my lips, the shadow seemed to shudder. Then, without warning, it glided towards the back of the basement, drawing me into the darkness. I followed, heart racing. It led me through a sea of cobwebs and dusty remnants of a life left behind. The murmurs grew louder, swirling around me like a storm. They formed words I couldn't quite grasp, teasing me with fragments of understanding. I stumbled over a broken chair, catching myself before I fell. "Wait!" I shouted, but the shadow was already moving toward the far wall, stopping abruptly. It pointed to something. My heart pounded as I moved closer. There, half hidden beneath layers of dust and trash, was a faded doorframe. It looked like it used to lead to another room, but the door itself was long gone. I pressed my hands against the frame. "What's behind here?" I whispered to the emptiness. At that moment, the whispers coalesced into a single voice, echoing through the basement. "Remember." Something clicked in my mind, but I couldn't place it. The voice felt familiar yet foreign at the same time. It sent chills down my spine. I was drawn to a small knot in the wood of the frame. It felt warmer than the surrounding air, almost calling to me. With a deep breath, I pressed it, half expecting nothing to happen. But as soon as I did, the floor shuddered beneath me, and the shadow surged forward as if it were trying to break through. My heart raced as I stumbled back, landing hard on the cold floor. When I regained my footing, the shadow had vanished, but the thumping returned, louder than ever. It felt like it was coming from inside the walls. The whispers crackled around me, weaving a web of anxiety. I knew I needed to get out. I turned and dashed toward the stairs, pulse pounding in my ears. Just as I reached the top, I glanced back, desperate to see if anything followed. The basement stood silent, but I felt a weight in my chest that suggested I hadn't finished this yet. I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was waiting for me, waiting for something I had yet to uncover. As I locked the basement door behind me, I wondered what remember meant. I had to know. But at what cost? I couldn't sleep that night. The words, remember, echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. I tossed and turned, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on me. Each creak of the house felt like a whisper, taunting me for not understanding. The next morning, I decided I had to find answers. I rummaged through the boxes in the attic, searching for anything that might connect to the house's past. Old family photos, faded letter fragments, and dusty mementos surrounded me. Nothing seemed to trigger a memory. Frustrated, I left the attic and headed downstairs. As I passed the living room, I spotted the dusty old radio. I hadn't bothered to turn it on since moving in. Something compelled me to reach for the knob. I turned it slowly, listening for a familiar sound. Suddenly, a crackle filled the air, and the static morphed into a voice. It was faint at first, but it became clearer. And it is said that memories have a way of surfacing when the time is right. My heart raced. Could it be connected to the shadow? I leaned closer, urgency clawing at me, but just as I began to hear more, the radio cut out completely. I bit my lip in frustration. This was a sign, wasn't it? Determined, I grabbed my flashlight and headed toward the basement again. The door felt heavier this time, as if it was bracing itself against my intrusion. I hesitated, recalling the shadow and the whispers. But whatever was down there was part of me, and I needed to face it. As I stepped down the creaky stairs, a chill swept over me. The basement looked the same, but the air felt alive, electric with anticipation. I approached the doorframe where I had pressed the knot, its presence still warm beneath my fingertips. Before I knew it, I pressed it again. This time, the reaction was different. A soft glow illuminated the seam between the wall and the frame, illuminating dusty cobwebs and forgotten objects. My breath stilled, and I could almost hear the voices urging me to uncover whatever lay beyond. Then, something unexpected happened. The glowing light changed, shifting from white to a deep, unsettling red. It flickered erratically, and I heard the thumping again. This time, it felt as if it resonated through my bones. My skin prickled with fear. Just then, a low metallic sound echoed behind me. I turned to see the standing freezer I often ignored. Its lid was slowly rising. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead, and my heart raced. I took a cautious step back. Then, a small hand reached out from inside, pale and ghostly. My mouth fell open in shock as the hand gripped the rim of the freezer. I couldn't tell if it belonged to something that had been trapped, or if it was a warning. Just as I took a step forward to get a better look, the light flickered out, plunging me into darkness. Panic surged through my body. I fumbled blindly for my flashlight, but when it flickered back on, the freezer was closed tight, and the basement felt eerily empty once more. And then I heard it. The whispers had returned, but now they sounded like laughter. It wasn't playful, it was mocking, echoing around me in the dark. I had come to seek answers, but the fear that filled me made it clear. I was only beginning to uncover the horrors this house kept hidden. The air in the basement felt thick, like it was holding its breath. I scanned the room, my flashlight beam trembling over old boxes and forgotten keepsakes. Nothing felt right, like something sinister was just outside my line of vision. I forced myself to focus, but my heart raced as the whispers grew louder, an eerie chorus filling my thoughts. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I needed to investigate that door. I pressed my palm against the glowing seam once more, feeling the warmth beneath my skin. But instead of pushing through, I hesitated, recalling the ghostly hand that had reached out. What had I almost stumbled upon? Then a sudden rustle caught my attention. It came from the corner where the shadows pooled thickest. My instinct screamed for me to turn back, but curiosity pulled me closer. The flashlight flickered, illuminating a shape draped in darkness. It was impossible to tell what it was. I held my breath and stepped forward, narrowing my eyes. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice more confident than I felt. The laughter that echoed around me seemed to dissolve into silence, giving me the strange impression that whatever was hiding appreciated the game of cat and mouse. Just then, I felt a rush of cold air, icy and biting as it swept past me. I shivered, and in that moment, I cursed myself for being so reckless. My flashlight flickered again, more insistently this time, and I gripped it tighter. I shuffled towards the source of the movement, and the beam of my light finally cut through the darkness. That's when I saw it. A small wooden box, half hidden beneath the dust. I knelt down and gingerly pulled it into the light. Its surface was scratched and worn, but there was still something unmistakably familiar about it. Against all common sense, I opened the box. Inside, I found a collection of trinkets. Old keys, a tarnished locket, and a note. I unfolded the crumpled paper, pulse racing as I read the scrawled handwriting. "Find me where the laughter hides. The truth sleeps beneath the floor." My stomach dropped. The note felt like an invitation and a warning all at once. It raised even more questions than it answered. What laughter, and what truth? I shoved the note into my pocket, feeling an unsettling weight settle on my chest. Before I could think further, the laughter returned, louder and more insistent than before. This time, it didn't sound far. It was surrounding me. I spun around, feeling a growing sense of dread as the shadows betrayed their secrets, revealing silhouettes that twisted and beckoned. I stumbled backward, bumping into the freezer again, but my fear was eclipsed by the note's message. I wasn't just expected to confront the unknown. I was being led deeper into its depths. I couldn't ignore it. As I gathered my thoughts, my flashlight flickered out completely. Panic surged through me once more. Just as darkness swallowed everything, a loud thud came from below, deeper within the basement. It was a sound that promised more than mere echoes and laughter. It was the sound of something alive. I stepped back, but there was nowhere to run. The whispers returned, but this time, they felt like a storm, swirling around me, demanding attention. Whatever was down there, it was calling for me, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I stood frozen in that suffocating darkness, the echoes of laughter wrapping around me like a tightrope. My heart thundered in my chest as I fought against the impulse to flee. I had come this far. I needed to know if the thud had a source. With shaky breaths, I edged toward the sound that seemed to ripple through the air, warping my sense of direction. The shadows stretched toward me, and my fingers itched for the flashlight. With one swift movement, I turned it back on, the beam slicing through the blackness like a knife. The faint glow revealed more of the basement. Cobwebs danced from the ceiling, and old furniture loomed like ghosts in the corners. I scanned the room, my eyes landing on a trapdoor set into the floor. It was just barely ajar, creaking slightly as if inviting me to peer inside. My breath hitched as I remembered the note. The truth sleeps beneath the floor. I could ignore it, pretend I hadn't found anything. I could. But a part of me, the part that felt this magnetic pull, urged me to pull the trapdoor open. The next loud thud echoed through the basement again, sharper this time, closer. It was enough to break through the fog of fear that wrapped around me. I moved forward, kneeling before the door and pulling at the edges until it creaked wide enough for me to see what lay below. A dark void yawned back at me. I glanced over my shoulder, fighting against the instinct that told me to leave. I couldn't turn back now. I needed answers. As I grasped the sides of the door and peered into the black abyss, shadows seemed to flicker within, shifting and swirling like smoke. Bathed in the flashlight's glow, I spotted something glimmering just out of reach, a small silver key lying on the stairs that descended into the darkness. The laughter danced in my ears once more, this time mingling with the sound of my own heartbeat. It hit me like a wave. That key must fit one of the locks in the box. In that moment, I felt a surge of determination. I'd come this far. Maybe finding that glowing door would lead to something that made sense of these unsettling encounters. I took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stair, mindful of every creak beneath my feet. Suddenly, the laughter shifted, becoming louder and almost mocking, as if the basement was aware of my decision. I hesitated, teetering between curiosity and dread. What lay beneath might not want to be found. As I descended into the dark, a chill settled over me again. It wasn't just the cold air, it was something else, something waiting. I reached the bottom of the stairs and spotted a faint glow. Narrowing my eyes, I moved closer, heart racing. That's when I heard it again, a thud, followed by a soft whisper that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. "Come play with me." I flinched, the feeling of being watched overwhelming me. My flashlight flickered once more, dimming as if it, too, feared what was below. I swallowed hard. The whispers seemed to promise both delight and danger, and I was caught between them. I took a step forward, drawn in by the light, but then I paused. What had I gotten myself into? Just as I felt the weight of uncertainty swell, the flashlight flickered out entirely. The laughter surged, harmonizing with the whispers that now surrounded me. I was completely enveloped in darkness, and my fate hinged on the next move I would make. I stood, enveloped in total darkness, my breath caught in my throat. The laughter, once just a distant echo, now pulsed around me. I had no light, and my heart raced with fear. The whispers grew, spilling into the void. "Come play with me." The voice was soft, almost sweet, but it carried a weight that sent chills dancing down my spine. I strained my ears, trying to discern any sign of direction. Footsteps echoed softly, shuffling across the floor, but I couldn't tell if they were real or figments of my imagination. I needed to move. Still angry with myself for letting the flashlight die, I felt along the rough, cold wall, searching for anything solid to cling to. My fingers brushed against something, a wall-mounted light switch. Hope sparked within me. I flipped it, but nothing happened. Only the laughter grew louder, filling the small space. Panic started to creep in. Maybe I should go back up, reverse course. Yet a strange urge kept me anchored. Perhaps if I could just find the source of that glow I had seen earlier, everything would make sense. I continued to navigate through the darkness, inching my way toward where I thought the stairs were. Without warning, a hand gripped my wrist. I gasped, panic pulling me back in a violent jolt. I pulled away, swinging my arm wildly to find nothing but air. My mind raced. Had I imagined it? Fighting between fear and curiosity, I pressed on, determined. The faint glow was still there, pulsating like a heartbeat. Each step I took was like a gamble. The whispers turned chaotic, rising and falling like waves crashing against a cliff. Suddenly, I tripped over something on the floor. I stumbled but caught myself, breathless. I crouched to feel around, and my fingers brushed against what felt like fabric. A child's shirt? Confusion flooded my mind. What was a child's shirt doing down here? As I pulled back, the whispering gained an urgency. "Stay with me." The warmth of the glow beckoned me closer. I took a deep breath, my chest tight with the need to flee, yet my legs moved forward, almost against my will. It wasn't long before I reached the source of the light, a small lantern illuminating the far corner of the room. I froze. There was something else, too. A box sitting right beside it. It looked just like the one in the first room. My heart pounded as I considered the possibilities. I could feel the whispers wrap around me, urging me forward. "Open it!" With trembling hands, I approached the box. The key. I could use the key I'd seen on the stairs. The glow of the lantern brightened, casting strange shadows on the walls. But as I fumbled for the key in my pocket, the laughter turned shrill, echoing eerily off the walls. I froze again, clutching the key tightly. I felt a presence behind me, heavy and suffocating. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Then everything went quiet. A chilling realization washed over me. What if I was wrong? What if opening the box meant unleashing whatever was lurking in the darkness? The laughter now faded into an expectant silence, waiting for my next move. I took a deep, shaky breath. Did I dare unlock the secrets this basement held, knowing it might shift the status quo between the living and the something else? The silence pressed in on all sides, thick and unnerving. I hesitated, key poised over the lock. The whispers had stopped, but the air felt charged, as if something unseen was holding its breath, waiting for me to act. My fingers trembled as the key seemed to grow heavier, each second stretching into eternity. "Open it!" the voice urged again, but this time a chill crept over me. I took a step back, my heart racing. What was I about to unleash? The lantern flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced around me, and I felt a flicker of movement behind me again. A draft? Or was it something else? "No more games," I whispered into the dark. "Just tell me what you want." My voice cracked, breaking the spell of silence. But there was no response, just the echo of my own words. I had to know. With a surge of determination, I plunged the key into the lock. It fit snugly, and I turned it slowly, heart pounding in my chest. The lock clicked, and the box sprang open. I gasped, startled by the sudden brightness that spilled from within. It wasn't just the lantern's light. It was a swirl of colors, almost alive, pulsating with energy. As I leaned closer, I saw that the box was filled with small, intricate toys. They looked as though they had been crafted with care. Wooden animals, spinning tops, and delicate puppets, each one coated in a fine layer of dust. But what unnerved me most were the tiny frozen expressions on the toys' faces. They looked startled, as if they were all caught in the act of something terrible. My stomach churned. What had I just opened? "Play with us," the voice whispered again, now softer but more insistent, almost childlike. I could feel the air shift, tinged with desperation. I couldn't just leave them here. My heart argued against my instincts that warned of danger. As if sensing my conflict, the whispers rose again, drowning out my thoughts. "You must stay." I was torn, my desire to flee clashing with the growing compulsion to engage. I reached toward one of the wooden animals. Its surface was warm beneath my fingertips. Suddenly, the lantern flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness again. I yanked my hand back, the warmth of the toy still lingering on my skin. The laughter spidered out in a chaotic wave, and I felt my pulse thunder in my ears. Then came the unmistakable sound of soft footsteps, a rhythm echoing closer. My heart raced. Someone, or something, was approaching. I couldn't move, rooted by a primal instinct. "Why don't you stay and play?" the voice cooed, now dangerously close. It wrapped around me like a noose, squeezing tighter with every breath. I turned, my eyes straining against the dark, trying to make out a shape. But then everything went dark again, worse than before. The lantern had flickered out entirely, leaving me in an inky abyss. I fumbled behind me for the box, the toys now my only point of reference. But panic surged as I realized the ground beneath me felt different. It wasn't just the coarse concrete. Something slick, something clammy, inched across my hand as I tried to gather myself. A thought hit me hard. What if I wasn't the only one down here? Someone or something had taken hold of this place. As I turned back toward the glow of the box, ready to instinctively shut it, I felt a cold breath at my neck. It whispered my name. And that was when I realized I might not be alone in this game after all. I could almost feel the breath curl around my neck, icy and sentient. Fear gripped me like a vice, and I gasped, darting to the side. My senses went into overdrive. I strained to hear, to feel, anything to tell me where the whispers originated. "Who's there?" I managed to choke out, my words barely audible over the thick silence. No response came, but that only intensified my dread. The weight of the toys seemed to pull me back toward the open box, as if they were now my only allies in this strange confrontation. I edged while keeping my back pressed to the wall, my fingers brushing against the wooden animals again. They felt different now. Not warm, but somehow alive. My heart raced as I released a breath I didn't know I was holding. I could feel the box's glow pulse weakly, promising both safety and danger. Then I saw it. A shape, barely discernible in the faintest of light. It flickered like a dying ember, darting just within my vision. My pulse quickened again, caught between fascination and terror. "Come on, play," the voice taunted, now echoing through the room with a playful malice that sent chills racing down my spine. "Leave me alone," I shouted, desperation surging. I hadn't come here for a game. I just wanted to leave. The shape shifted again, sliding between the shadows only to reappear closer. My breath caught in my throat. It was a doll, one of the delicate puppets from the box, with its wide eyes fixed on me. Its wooden body was cracked but somehow motionless. My instinct screamed at me to retreat, but I couldn't break away. "Don't you want to play?" it said, the voice now echoing with 1,000 pitches, wrapping around me like threads of a fishing net. Then the shadows deepened, pushing forward. I had to act. I lunged for the lantern and fumbled with the wick. Frantic, I struck a match. As the flame flickered to life, the room glimmered briefly, revealing a dozen dolls, all with rapt faces frozen in grotesque glee. My breath hitched, and I nearly dropped the lantern. That's when I saw it. Something lurking behind the toys, peering at me. It wasn't just a doll. It had a form, a shadow clothed in mismatched pieces, blending into the backdrop of chaos. The moment our eyes met, I felt a sharp tug in my mind, like a whisper reaching into forgotten places. "Stay with us," it hissed, its voice slithering over my skin. I clutched the lantern tighter, its warm light quaking but steady against the darkness. "Get away from me!" I shouted, my voice cracking. A newfound urgency surged through me. I had to escape this nightmare. But as I turned toward the stairs, something pulled at my arm. I looked down, realizing the very toys I had touched were no longer lifeless. They clung to me, their wooden arms reaching as though trying to drag me down. The cold fingers of the house wrapped around my ankle, rooting me to the ground. I felt the pull of something dark and powerful, something determined to keep me here. I needed a way out, and fast. But in this place, it seemed the only direction to go was deeper into the unsettling game. Then, with a crack of thunder that erupted from nowhere, the lantern flickered wildly, and everything went dark once more. The last thing I heard before the void swallowed me was the echoes of laughter, taunting and gleeful, resounding in a maddening chorus. This was just the beginning. I landed hard on the wooden floor, gasping and blinking against the darkness. My heartbeat rang in my ears, a frantic staccato that matched the pulse of fear coursing through me. I sat up slowly, expecting the toys to be right there, still rattling with mockery. Instead, the space was empty. The lantern had rolled away from me, its light barely visible. I scrambled to it, my fingers brushing against the cold floor until I finally found it. The flame flickered weakly, casting long shadows against the walls. But I wasn't alone. A figure stood at the edge of the light, an indistinct shape that twisted and contorted like a mirage. I squinted, trying to focus, and that's when the laughter returned. A cacophony of giggles, echoing off the walls. It was as if the very air had become charged with the sounds of unseen children, reveling in my fear. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice quivering. "Don't you want to play too?" The voice taunted again, shifting between childlike glee and a deep, menacing rumble. The shadows swirled, distorting the figure. I could see parts of it now, small movements that hinted at limbs and a face, twisted with mockery. "We're all just waiting for you." I stumbled to my feet, the lantern inches from my grasp. It took every ounce of willpower not to flee into the darkness. I felt their beady eyes upon me, and strong emotions churned within. This wasn't just a game. It felt like a trap set long before my arrival. As I strained to look around, more shapes began to emerge from the shadows, closer now. They were dolls, but not the kind I had seen before. They were ragged and threadbare, with stains that suggested stories of neglect and darkness. Some seemed to laugh openly, their expressions frozen in grotesque delight. Others merely stared, their glassy eyes unblinking. "Join us! Join us!" The whispers danced around me, forming a chilling melody that echoed through my bones, stirring something dark and deep within. "Please," I breathed, "I just want to go home." But the more I pleaded, the more their laughter swelled. It felt like a cruel song meant to mock my desperation. I couldn't let them win. I had to find a way out. I turned to look for the stairs, but the way seemed convoluted and treacherous now, shadows thickening into walls that closed in on me. What had once been a simple exit now felt like a labyrinth designed to keep me captive. I felt the grip of icy fingers threading around my wrist. One of the dolls, its wooden face marred and cracked, was pulling me. Startled, I wrenched my arm free and stumbled backward, the lantern's flame flickering dangerously. That's when a soft, silken voice slipped into my ear, intoxicating and slow. "Stay with us. There's so much fun to be had." With panic rising like bile, I swung the lantern in front of me, illuminating the space. The dolls and shadows recoiled for a split second, and amidst that moment, I saw it. A doorway behind the toys, slightly ajar and glowing faintly. I knew I had to move. I headed towards the doorway, but the laughter crescendoed into a chaotic uproar, and the shadows lunged forward. Then, just as I reached the threshold, I heard a whisper that froze my blood. "You can't leave without choosing." A moment of hesitation threatened to trap me, but all I could think was escape. I burst through the doorway, and the air exploded with wild, screeching cries, as if they were losing their grip on me. That's when everything went black again. I woke up sprawling on the floor, disoriented and gasping for breath. It felt like a weight had been lifted from my chest, and I blinked against the fluorescent light overhead. My heart raced, but this time the laughter was gone. There was no choking darkness surrounding me, just a musty old basement. I sat up slowly, examining my surroundings. The trapdoor was now closed, the lantern lying next to me flickering weakly. I felt like I had emerged from a nightmare, yet something deep inside knew that this was not the end. The air, once heavy with whispers and laughter, now felt strangely silent, as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for me to make my next move. Hypnotized by the flickering light, I pushed myself to my feet and staggered toward the base of the stairs. My palms shook as I gripped the railing, searching for any clues about what had just happened. Had I really encountered something otherworldly? Or was it all just a product of exhaustion and fear? I could feel a pulse of dread building again, a reminder that whatever had kept me encircled wasn't finished with me yet. The moment I stepped onto the top landing, my body froze. A photo hung crookedly on the wall, an image of a family that looked eerily familiar. Their smiles seemed friendly, but their eyes, those same eyes from the photographs I found in the basement, were different, like they held secrets too heavy to carry. The moment my gaze shifted to the floor below, I spotted the glint of a silver key half buried in a thick layer of dust, just where I had tripped. Instinctively, I reached for it. The very moment I touched it, a shiver ran through me. I recalled the toys in the box, the glowing door, the shadows encroaching. They wanted me to play with them. They wanted to bind me to this place. My heart agreed with the warning echoing in my thoughts, but the curiosity tugged at me, seducing me back to the secret still hidden within the walls. "Why?" I whispered, contemplating if I should leave it where it lay, trapping it beneath dust and darkness, or confront the entity lurking there, just as I had faced the shadows before. In my gut, I felt the weight of their eyes watching me still. They were waiting for me to choose, to decide. I was ready to run but caught between two worlds, unsure of what resided in either. I pocketed the key, drawing on that last surge of adrenaline as I made my way to the basement door. Would I find the answers I had been searching for, or would I be met with the same insatiable laughter? I took a deep breath and placed my hand on the doorknob. The wood felt warm to the touch, sizzling like a freshly kindled flame. A voice, soft and insistent, echoed in the back of my mind. "Stay with us." My pulse quickened and uncertainty clawed at me. But I wanted to return to the ordinary. My life, my work, the safety of structured days. I twisted the knob and stepped outside, leaving the heavy presence of the house behind. That night, I tossed and turned in my new apartment, light streaming through the windows like a veil of safety. But even as I closed my eyes, the whispers lingered in the corner of my mind. Sometimes, I think I hear laughter echoing through the alley below, and the sensation of being watched creeps back into my thoughts. I don't know if what haunted me was real, or merely an illusion concocted by an old house brimming with secrets. I still think about that silver key, about what it unlocked and what it might mean for anyone left inside. Sometimes, I wonder if my absence sparked something more sinister than what had been before, and if the shadows still linger, waiting patiently for my return. I suppose I'll never know.